I've been playing a lot of Gotham Knights thanks to a code from Warner Bros. And while I totally get the criticisms, yes, it sucks that the game is stuck at 30 FPS while being a new gen only title, and there are even dips below that as well when traversing the open world, as Digital Foundry demonstrated. Gotham City itself also feels very empty, with a few forgettable side objectives and an overall very samey and uninspired look. And why does the bad cycle at max speed feel like 20 miles an hour? Yes, the wind effects and the slow driving other vehicles cannot hide the fact that driving is pretty bad. Luckily, you do unlock fast travel relatively early on, so you can more easily get to each district. Only the first few hours are kind of a pain, but this did not stop me from enjoying my time with this game a lot though. If you go in expecting an open world RPG set in the Batman universe, I think you will like this game as well. So I want to share what I think this game does very well, with some things that you could also only encounter and figure out later on into the game. I really hope that some future open world titles take note. Of course, a like on the video would really help me out. Subscribe for way more on Gotham Knights. We already got a ton of tips on the channel and more coming your way. And let's go. One of the things I really like is the crime system. So instead of having your open world map filled with icons from the beginning, Gotham Knights does it in a way more dynamic and interesting way. And it also makes sense with the superhero fantasy that this game is going for. You start every day in the Belfry, your home base. Maybe look at the evidence board for the next clue or craft new items to get the best possible loadout for your current level. And then you go out at night. And every one of these nights is different based on the crimes that are available. So from here you can choose to either continue with your next main story mission or go do one of these crimes. And while the objectives are nothing too crazy, like stopping enemies when they're trying to kidnap a civilian, sometimes they want to free a prisoner from a transport bus, rob a bank with a giant laser, and then try to steal the gold. Sometimes you have to infiltrate a Court of Owls hideout, or stop enemies from doing an illegal hack, so make sure that no one is behind the computer to steal the data. There are 15 variants, and also in multiple locations. Like, even after finishing the main story, I encountered a few crimes that I did not see before. And sometimes stealth is the best approach for these as well, as if you are spotted during a bomb disarm crime, then the timer on these bombs will go off, and it's almost impossible to free all citizens in time before the explosion, and when it explodes you fail the crime. Like, the stakes are pretty high because you only have one try per crime. Also, when you die, the crime succeeded, so it disappears from the map and you lose out on some rewards. I also like how the police will always show up on the crime scene after you either failed or completed the mission, and they don't like vigilantes trying to take over their job, so you have to leave the crime scene fast, otherwise the cops will shoot at you. It's a nice thing that makes the city a bit more alive. There are also special bonus objectives for almost every encounter that will push you to use things like the grab move or barrels in the environments to take out some enemies. Maybe you would have never used them, now there's a good incentive to do so. And sometimes you get extra rewards for remaining undetected. So while I would normally jump straight into the action, I will now remain stealth during this encounter. But it's mostly the amount of enemies that really help with the variety in these crimes. Gotham Knights has 6 factions, or 7 if you include the Gotham Police as well, who you can take out, but there are no rewards for doing so. Many of the more linear missions introduce new archetypes or completely new factions who will then roam the city after you complete that mission. So the crimes you start the game out with will be different from those a few chapters later on in the game. Like, actually at many points in the game as you progress through the story, the crimes will evolve based on the events that happened in the story. Or you could also randomly encounter some citizens taken over by Clayface who also have some different powers. In the pre-launch material, they mostly focused on the Court of Owls, and while they are totally featured with some really memorable missions, it's far from the only sort of mysterious faction that you will encounter in the game. Another cool thing is that these enemies can evolve. Take the mob faction for example. There are already quite a lot of variants, but once you get further into the game, they will get better armor and also brand new attacks that you now have to worry about. So the same tactic won't work against these enemies later on, just like the same element, as they will also get resistance for one of them. Their elemental weaknesses stay the same though, and the moment I figured out that, for example, Frost is really good against the Court of Owls, the otherwise tougher encounters got way more manageable. Especially against the big gladiator enemies I first had trouble with. freezing them in place made them suddenly an easy target. While you at first might be like, what is a loot system doing in my Batman game? I think they do a great job at introducing new layers and making these items more important as you go through the game. Where you can easily go without switching your loadout in Valhalla, for example, here it did matter to exploit the weaknesses of the enemies, especially the bosses that have a large health pool. Using the right element against them makes their fight way easier. Now don't get me wrong, the gear system is not really deep or anything, but it is impactful and satisfying to get upgrades and switch things out depending on the situation. Also near the end of the game you get more interesting legendary items that come with some impactful perks to then, for example, use in the New Game Plus mode. Yes, it's really cool that New Game Plus is available at launch, increasing the level cap as well, so opening up way more possibilities as you can then unlock all your skill points. Most open world games get like New Game Plus a few months after release, if they get the feature at all. And it's especially cool in Gotham Knights to play through these missions again, but with a different hero. Like, one of the things most critics agreed on is that each character does feel different. They all have 8 pretty unique active abilities, and I also really liked how impactful most of the skills were, introducing brand new moves, but also really significant buffs. So I was always looking forward to the next level, because I knew that I would be unlocking a next skill that would totally enhance my gameplay. It would have been better though if we learned more about the backstory of each character. Gotham Knights really expects you to be up to date on the DC lore, like you will hear mentions of the fact that Nightwing and Red Hood were Batman's Robin before the actual Robin we got in the game now, or that Red Hood has been brought back to life once. But it would have been cooler if we actually got to see these origin stories, maybe with some cutscenes, or playable would of course be even cooler. Maybe also how Barbara was paralyzed by the Joker and after many surgeries back to fight crime like never before. There are these small character interactions in the Belfry that you unlock as you play more of each hero, also with Alfred. Like, they are nice, but I could have used more to really connect to the characters. It is impressive though how every hero feels like the main character, even though you could have done the same mission in 4 different ways. There are unique dialogue, references to the other heroes you're currently not playing, or remarks that could have only been made by that particular character because of the knowledge they have. So I think it's totally interesting again to play these missions with the different heroes. I do wish there was a replay feature though, because the one-time linear story quests are really well done, where the open world can look bland. These interior designs are a feast for the eyes and really detailed. One moment you'll be in the neon iceberg lounge, while the other moment you're exploring the underground lairs of the Court of Owls. Also the villain cases, which are separate from the main quest, have some very unique locations that are all pretty varied. I was always looking forward to the next instanced mission, and I felt it was perfect in combination with the open world evolving crimes. Now sure, on level 30 I'm seeing the same locations and crimes again, but I mean it makes sense that after 30 hours or so things are being repeated. I just overall think that the progression throughout the game is well done, and I can't wait to boot it up again to perfect some builds for the different heroes, start New Game Plus to experience the content once more, and I'm also really curious about the free 4-player arena-based co-op mode that is launching on November 29th, which will make grinding for gear even more useful because we will probably need it during that content. I'm really curious if you got the game, what do you think so far, or after finishing it, drop it in the comments, subscribe for way more on Gotham Knights if you haven't already. Again, we're just getting started, we got way more tips and tricks coming your way, and of course already on the channel. A like would really help me out, and you can check out one of these tips videos on the mistakes I made that you should not do yourself by clicking on the screen. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.